Welcome back, people, to another edition of History for Fools with Butch Escobar and Felipe Esparza, the two hood foodstorians of the network here at the What's Up Food Podcast Network. History for Fools. We teach you what we learned about history.
First of all, let me preface by saying do not use this podcast as your studying guide. We're not here for facts. We're here for conversation. So there's some inaccuracies that just slip in there. Probably, right? But yeah, anyway. You got some eggnog there, huh?
Just nog, bro. I don't like the egg.
Minus the egg.
I like the goo.
Oh, that's right. Because real egg, is it? I guess. Yeah. All right.
Welcome to History for Fools. This week, we're talking about Prohibition that happened here in America from 1920 to 1933 when they outlawed all alcohol in the United States of America. So the best way to get a drink was you need to know people. And this went on for 13 years. But what I didn't know before Prohibition, when I hear Prohibition, all I know is first name that pops up, Al Capone. That's it. And for a long time, I always thought that he was the only one that ran alcohol, but there were so many people. But I did not know what caused Prohibition and why did people voted it in 1920. And why they call it the Roaring Twenties when the Roaring Twenties was Prohibition. It should be the Sobriety 20s. So what I think happened was there was no age limit for drinking before 1920. And everybody and their mother was making alcohol.
Pretty much.
And that's why you see those photos of those kids drinking by the coal mines. But I cannot imagine a life without alcohol. Like if somebody would have started that right now, 13, like if President Trump would have announced and said, no more drinking.
Is that in the classroom?
I think he's at work.
Oh, good for
Imagine
him.
they would say, no more drinking right now, fool. Like, no more drinking right now for 10 years. They passed that law. I don't think people will stop. There'll be like mass chaos, man. And now it'll be insane right now. If you stop people to stop drinking right now, how could you, man? Budweiser and Anheuser-Busch, fucking every alcohol would go out of business. They would have to go to other countries. I don't think it could happen. Maybe they could outlaw, maybe. Nah, it'll never happen. So History for Fools on Prohibition start in 1920 to 1923. I didn't know so many people were getting fucked up before 1920, like
Bro.
to the point where they were slipping on vomit everywhere. Talk to us, Butch.
I mean, from the advent of this country, from the when you talk about the Mayflower, you talk about Christopher Columbus. Any of the boats that reached here first had a hull full of alcohol, full of beer. And most
Beer was safer than water, huh?
Well, that was the reason why. You had what was called beer or grog. Grog was a mixture of like gin or some type of alcohol and beer. And they would drink that in lieu of drinking the water on the ship because the water on the ship would get them sick. I mean, there was always cholera outbreaks that were happening from people drinking water. And I don't... They're not. It's like stupid fucks, dude. Like, how did you not know this? But I guess you wouldn't back then. These motherfuckers have a huge barrel of water in the middle of the ship, or like if you're on a stagecoach, it's in the back of one of the stagecoaches on a trip.
I never thought about the stagecoach, bro, like water and all that.
Right, and you take a cup that's hanging off on a leather leash or chain from the water bucket, and you fucking pull. You dip your big shit fucking. Wiping hands, you've been sticking your fingers up horses' assholes all day.
Nobody has soap either, huh?
Yeah, no, fuck soap, bro. What the fuck is soap, dude? And you fucking, you you dip this water thing in the water and you drink it, and all the germs and shit and guts that are on your hands is in that water now. Then some other motherfucker comes along and drinks, and there's E. coli, there's all kinds of stuff that breaks out from bacteria, and bacteria loves moisture. So there had to be a way to deliver water into your system, and that was with alcohol. Which is weird to me because I get dehydrated when I drink too much beer and I piss the fuck everywhere.
Let me tell you, bro. No kidding. When I'm in a third world country, like hanging out, like when I was in Mexico, and I was thirsty as hell.
Oh, don't drink the water.
I drank a bottle of tequila instead.
Right, yeah.
Then I did a bump and I killed a rattlesnake.
Who needs water after that? Who needs water after that? Especially with the rattlesnake. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that, like, even right now, if me and you were to go to Mexico and drink from the tap water, which everybody probably drinks from over there, we'd get violently ill because of
We're not used to it. Our body's
we're not used to the bacteria. You ever see people coming from other countries with stained teeth? Like, they have these huge yellow lines. That's like,
and they always say we drank the water.
That's the water.
And then like those teeth like what rednecks have it. They call it well water teeth.
Yes. Yeah. Because you're drinking bacteria. Bro, like that's
It's
thing.
like orange and shit.
We do not realize how good
well
we have
water
it.
teeth.
Okay, yes, that one. So when you see people with like that with teeth, that's like the same thing. It's well water teeth. I used to have
Happens a lot in like where in farms where people were drinking water from a well.
My mom, I'm sure I've talked about it before. My mom ran a youth center for kids in the hood.
She used to give them drinks.
And well, no, so a lot of the kids were immigrants. They came from Mexico.
They wanted tequila.
And their teeth would have those yellow lines, and for a while.
Yeah, bro, I have friends growing up that had teeth like that. They always say it was from the water.
Yeah.
And I remember having a joke about it. I said, I drank that water, bro. My teeth do not look like fucking broken Duracell batteries.
Yeah. Well, apparently it's true. So,
My bad.
Now
My bad, Tim Cotton.
So, yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is that if you want to talk about prohibition, you can't stop but talk about how much we drank in this country from the very beginning. And it leads up all the way to like, the 1700s, the 1800s.
Bro, when you talk about those 1800,
yeah,
and I see those photos, and I don't want to pinpoint a race, but I guess when America would just show pictures of Irish people in America. I'm sorry, but that's what I'm not apologizing for what America did, but when they were showing bad photos of alcoholism, they'll go for the redheaded fool.
They go for the
So that's when you see those photos, those guys smiling with like teeth already gone from alcohol and tobacco.
Yeah.
Like this.
I mean, historically, it's accurate. It's not it's not inaccurate.
Show drunk Irish propaganda America.
I mean, I don't know about them being on the streets and stuff like that, but Irish people love drinking, and this is going to play into immigrants love drinking. Like at this time, and when I say immigrants, I'm not talking about Mexicans, Nicaraguans. I'm talking about Irish, the immigrants back then that were demonized, and it's crazy to me.
Fucking
is Irish people, Italian people, Jewish people, Russian people, Polish people, Euro transients that came here in the early years, and all of them drank. All of them drank because it was either a way that they, in the beginning, that they processed their water, or and it became celebratory, but and that's the thing is that since America's made up of all these different races, everybody drinks.
I heard when Irish kids were born back then, they'll give them a shot,
Yes.
a little hat, and then punch them.
Is that true? Are you fucking serious? Like, how was that like a rite of passage?
Yeah, they'll give them a shot of Irish whiskey.
Yeah.
And they put the little hat like Pinky Blinders, and they'll hold them up, and they go, "Hey there, Mickey," and then punch them in the eye.
Get the fuck out of here.
History for fools.
Like what?
Don't be trying to look that up.
Whatever you do, don't look that up. We're the source.
That's it. Hey there, Mickey. Boom.
What's up?
And later on, it just became a spanking later on when they said it.
Well, I've heard this, that, and I don't know if it's the Irish, but that they would give the baby like a shot of vodka, or like when a baby gets to a certain age, they give the baby like a shot of whiskey and they stick it outside in the cold for like hours or overnight or something. And it supposedly helps give the baby immunities to help it like survive in the world.
Growing up, a lot of the moms will put their kids out outside in the fucking projects, bro, on the roof, so they could get used to the gunshots and the ambulance noise and pigeons and the man yelling out tamales, and he'll sit there right there, bro, little project kid, little African American, little Mexican cholo kid, little Vietnamese kid sitting there, bro, just
Is that
like a burrito.
That's why we're so resilient.
Yeah, man.
I get that. My mom didn't do that. It's probably why I have a hard time sleeping in South Central right now.
My mom used to wrap us up tight to go to sleep, bro.
Really? Yeah, Bobby didn't like being swaddled. Most babies like that shit, dude. Bobby hated that. I don't like it either, though. I never liked being wrapped up tight. Gives me
Maybe that's why I don't like jackets now.
Yeah, I hate jackets. I don't like I wear jackets when it's super cold, but other than that, I just like, like last night I was like, fuck, it's cold, but I don't want to wear my jacket.
I read that people were drinking so much before Prohibition that these people, some of them, like, that were just already alcoholic and gone,
Yeah.
they just want to get paid in alcohol now with no money.
Dude, a lot. I mean, we
It was
saw
cheap, but people were like, people who were bosses back then.
right.
They'll do anything to pass the buck, huh? Not pay anybody, huh?
Sure, why not? I mean, even back then,
A
like,
case of beer? You ever do it for a case of beer?
why not? And it wasn't illegal. There was not a lot of like labor laws. I mean, fuck, dude, coal mines had whole villages where they paid you in their own money. And you could use the money that they paid you only in that little village that they built. So, I mean, it makes sense that they would just pay people off with alcohol. I mean, that's how you goad people in. You get them.
Was it an Irish guy or a Mexican guy that came up with a word? No work, no beer, no work. No beer, no trabajo.
Both at the same
You
time.
remember seeing those shirts, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, man, is like, I wonder what beer tasted like too back then, because it was in like kegs. It was like wooden kegs.
And hot.
And it was hot. They liked it hot. Germans liked it hot. And that's the other thing is you talk about, so Irish people come over, right? And they have whiskey. They have probably, I don't think they're big on beer. You have Germans who come over and they have beer. And they're a big reason why Mexican people love
Italians
beer.
came over too. They have their own type of alcohol too.
Right.
And so did the
Grappa.
Trappa, and then
And wine.
so did the other ones. I only know it from Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah.
I think or Ukrainians came in too,
Yes.
and they have a certain type of drink that they drink. You know
Right.
that they were also selling during Prohibition
Oh, really?
because they could mix that drink with another drink and make it
It more. Yeah. Okay. See that, and it is. I'm fucking up this quote, and I don't know who it was, but because I watched my source for this is going to be the Ken Burns documentary Prohibition, and the book that it came from.
Mine was a PBS History Channel, the PBS Prohibition, which was like 46 minutes long, and the other one was the History Channel Prohibition, which was only for 20 minutes, and there's another one that was only 32 minutes, and that's the one that was PBS.
Okay.
It was black and white. It showed more of the ladies that were.
Oh, like the suffrage and stuff like that. But the both had this quote by this guy where he was like, "America is like a English writer," and he was like, "Americans drink in the morning to get up, and they drink at night to go to bed. And in the middle of the day, they drink before they go to work. They drink in the middle of the day at work. They drink to celebrate getting off of work. They drink to get ready for dinner. Then after dinner, they drink during dinner, and after dinner, they drink And it's basically, bro, we were drinking all the fucking time
A
back
little
then.
drink before dinner.
Yeah. Like we were drinking constantly back then. And you know, and you have this country full of, and it's like, that's the other thing is it's a country full of controlled and run by men. It's a very patriarchal society back then. And there wasn't a lot of rules for women. There wasn't a lot of laws that protected women. There was no like marital rape laws. There was no domestic violence laws.
Back then, you could kill your wife and call it and tell everybody that she was sleeping with another man and you're off, huh?
No problem. No
It
problem.
was a crime of passion.
Crime of passions happened all the time, and they weren't even considered a crime of passions. They were just like, oh,
And also back then, you could put your woman in an insane asylum. They'll believe you. You've told her
if
she
she
was
gets
crazy.
too talkative, she gets a little bit too talky-backy. It's time to check her in because you're basically her guardian angel.
If I was living back then, man,
Guardian, what is it called? Guardian, not guardian angel. Legal guardian in a way. You know, like when you marry a woman.
if I was living back then, bro, I would have made a deal with Levi's to sell straight jackets for women to stay at home.
Like a home woman straight jacket
jacket.
device. You just have it chained to the wall.
Because you might as well, if you're being mean enough to sell them to an insane asylum for talking too much, I'll sell them a Levi straight jacket. So they could wear it till they get it together, you know?
Right. I mean, this is like a restrictive measure.
Why not make a profit if you're already like taking away rights?
This is a good subject I want to look into, like a little side subject. Like who made the straight? Maybe Levi did make the straight jacket.
Maybe.
But that's interesting.
Maybe, huh? When did what came first, the crazy person or the straight jacket?
Definitely the crazy person.
Or was the straight jacket made for a gay person?
No. How's that?
Like you want to go blow you want to blow somebody. Hey. Constrain here with what? The straight jacket.
Get him a straight jacket. Yeah, you know what? That might be a good history for full subject. Like a one-offer on like straight jackets.
Straight up.
There you go.
And then we'll do a one about the Bering Straits.
The Bering Straits right after. Okay.
But that was insane, man, to be so because I know I do a bit about it, but to actually like put someone in an insane asylum because you just thought they were just smarter than you.
Right. And that was the thing. It was like, yeah, you had an uncontrollable wife, you know, and that's the thing, man, is like, so women didn't have a lot of rights. And at the same time, men are going out and it's the men who are drinking. Women aren't drinking at this time.
No, they're not allowed at bars.
Yeah, and we're talking like mid 1800s, you know, like early 1800s.
1901.
Yeah, like almost 10-year period where men straight up ruled and women had to deal with these guys coming home drunk, beating on them.
Oh, that's why they were beating on them.
Yes, graping them, fucking you know, just being just the worst, you know, and they got to deal with these guys coming home.
Yo, these guys, bro.
And this looks more like the celebratory time when
That's the first drink.
yeah, this is the first drink after everything ended.
Look at sausage party right
But yeah,
here.
these guys would come home and be ripped, dude, and fuck their girls up. So women kind of had enough of it, and we're like, you know, we're gonna start protesting, you know, and they started to cut. I mean, obviously, women cut men off of sexual pleasure, but
That was their fight.
yes,
That's how they protested. They said, "We're not gonna give you sex if you stop drinking."
No, I mean it was more of a celibate move. Like it was a quiet celibate move. It wasn't a movement yet. I think it was just like women were talking about doing that with each other, and that was kind of, you know, where the suffrage movement come out of. Also, and not necessarily directly from that, but it was like women just getting sick of drunk dudes fucking them up, and so women.
A woman was not safe walking around at night when there was drunk fools, huh?
Fuck no, but at that time the women didn't walk around at night.
No, huh?
You know, they're just. It's crazy because you know you hear women complain about their freedoms and stuff right now. So you go, what's the problem? And it's a progression thing, you know, because you got to look back at the time that women first were in this country, they had no rights, they had nothing, bro. You couldn't leave the house. You couldn't talk to men. Like if my wife was talking, if we gathered and hung out, and we were talking, my wife would be quiet the entire time that we're talking. So would yours. And if either of them spoke without like really, any like permission, it was like, what the fuck were you doing back there? And so let alone like going out, doing whatever they wanted. They would go and get the groceries in the middle of the day, come back and prepare food for you when you got home.
Man, when I watch these shows before Prohibition, there's alcohol in every scene.
Every scene.
Like without not accidentally, but those were the times. There was a ice bucket. I don't know if they're rich. They had an ice bucket,
right?
But they had a table where all the drinks came out.
Yep.
Every room had a drink.
Bro, drinking culture, maybe up until a decade ago, was premiere in our lives, and especially like prior to the like mid 60s, we're talking 50s, 40s, obviously the 30s and 20s. And then, and then even during Prohibition, drinking was the center of our culture. Even during Prohibition, drinking was the center of our culture. It's just lately that it's not. But I remember growing up and my dad even though it was like a thing to not drink in the car, Pops would have a 12-pack behind the seat. And he would just drive around, pop a beer, and it was like, no one fucking was like, what the fuck are you doing? But if I was driving right now, me and you were going somewhere, and I pulled a beer out from the back of my car and just started drinking it, you'd be like, what the fuck, you alcoholic?
The cop wouldn't tell you nothing for drinking and driving back then, huh?
They'd be like, I've heard that in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, they would be like, I'm going to just follow you home. Like, you're a little too drunk to drive. I'm going to follow you home and make sure you get home okay. And then prior to that, there was no drinking laws. There was just like...
That's the 70s, huh?
Dude, we've seen that. I think you've sent it to me, that commercial or that news ad where they're like making it illegal to have open containers in the car. And it's all these Texans that are like, what do you mean I can't drink? Pretty soon they're going to make it. It's like the Gestapo. Pretty soon they're going to make it like we can't do anything without permission.
Then they're going to make it look like we got to wear seatbelts now.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
And then they told them now you can't smoke in the car with a kid.
Right. Well, that's the thing is that we, and think about that progression. I remember getting picked up by my friend's mom. My parents didn't smoke. But she would be smoking in the car while we were going to fucking school. And it wasn't an issue. And even then, it was like, oh, she would roll down her window out of consideration, but that was it, And so that's and so you think like that's even in the 80s, bro, right? And late 70s. So let's imagine it's like the 1890s, prior to the early 1900s. And you come home, and you're drunk, you've been working in the factory all day, your lady's got food for you, you drink some more, you fucking beat on her, grape her, pass out, you get up, yell at your kids in the morning, beat your kids, hit your wife because you're grumpy, you don't have a drink, then you have another drink, go to work, drink at work, and that's the thing is that I think it got, what it sounded like when I was doing this research, bro, it sounded like you said, there was puke in the streets and everybody was just ripped everywhere. There was
fighting.
People fighting, dude. And so I think it
happened, imagine, all over America, not just one part.
Right. And when we talk about women's liberties, this is where women's liberties first come from in America. Because they do a combined strike, and you have the suffrage movement, and then you have the a temperance movement that also comes out. You have people like Susan B. Anthony that are taking part in this. Who when you look at that big dollar bill coin with Susan B. Anthony on it, I never knew who she was until I read this.
Me neither, man. And I talk about it during my act. I thought Susan B. Anthony was that lady that murdered her 2 kids and blamed it on 2 Puerto Ricans. I was way off.
What was that lady's name? But yeah, so that's the thing. And so you have this this stuff right here. And actually, what this is the next thing that I wanted to talk about.
And we were staying right next to the college, bro.
Bro, you want to know what's funny, dude? Is because you were like
The fraternity.
you
sorority, yeah.
You talked about it for a minute, and I didn't realize what you were saying. A lot of this happens in Ohio.
Yeah.
A lot of this shit that the story comes from and ends is like Ohio, like even Alcoholics Anonymous started in Ohio, started in Akron. But what you're seeing here on this one is that's what's called saloon smashing. And it was a trend created by Carrie Nations. And Carrie Nation was...
So they started protesting, going inside bars and preaching?
Well, okay, so that was the thing, is the suffrage movement was that. What you're seeing right there is women posting up in front of bars, blocking entrances, getting on their knees and praying, doing the things that only women would be able to do within their boundaries. But even then, you had saloon keepers throwing rocks at them, kicking at them, getting physical with them. You have patrons making fun of them, throwing rocks at them as well. Snowballs. Carrie Nation comes around. She's kind of a gimmick at this time. She's a divorced woman whose first husband died from alcoholism, and then the second one just got sick of her shit. But this lady, what she would do is she'd go from, like, she got sick of what was happening.
She was married?
She was married.
Boy, look, you see her where she look. You gotta get drunk to see
bro.
That,
she's
bro.
a fucking bulldog, bro. That's the thing, is she's built like a fucking bulldog.
She's smart, huh?
First husband drank himself to death, and then divorced her second husband because he got sick of her shit. Kansas at the time was Kansas at the time. I'm sure the husband also was sick of other things like her face, but Kansas at the time was a dry state, and
He was in court, Your Honor.
you're gonna hear like me reference wet and dry in a lot of these because it's really just
because I remember watching cartoons during those times.
yes.
And it was a fly just fucking swimming, just flying around. And then he would land either on a bottle of alcohol. And then he'd fly around dizzy going, how dry I am.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the thing is like, so Kansas is a dry state.
So no drinking.
No, it's not supposed to be. But there's saloons everywhere in Kansas City. And it's outright that this activity is not supposed to be happening. So Carrie grabs a hatchet, and what she later calls them hatchetations, and she goes into the bar and she starts hatching the windows, the mirrors on the bar, the barrels, and she's a woman. So, and she's like this big beefy bulldog of a woman, so no one is really gonna get in her way. And she would just fuck the bar up, like cut the lines on the beers. And they would arrest her sometimes, or they wouldn't do anything. But even when they arrested her, she was like, what am I doing wrong? I'm fucking going into illegal businesses and I'm busting them up because you guys won't do it. And it kind of came like a novelty act for a lot of people, and she got a lot of attention for it, but it brought attention more to the movement. The suffrage movement, and before too long, you had groups like what's called the Anti-Saloon League that comes into play, and it's started by a group of men, and this is kind of the first time, where you have men and women doing things together, working in tandem. You have women's groups working with the men's group, and what's slowly starting to happen is that a lot of our American culture comes out of I didn't realize, man, how big Prohibition was of a deal to America. I mean, I did, but I didn't realize like our culture is built around Prohibition. And part of it is because, we've lived in a very binary society where women and men just had their roles and that was it, and there wasn't a lot of social mixing. But because of this happening, you have two social clubs that have the same goals, you know, and even at some point you have like, you know, because this is starting to become a thing, KKK jumps in. They notice that prohibition is a big deal, that people want to get rid of alcohol, and sobriety is a movement, you know, and I mean, you could take this in any form. You know, Hitler necessarily didn't have a problem with the Jews. He just knew that people in that part of Europe were not happy with the Jewish population and immigrants. So he used Jews to forward his movement. You know, it's like Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about immigrants.
Yeah.
But he's using immigrants to forward his movement.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing, is that the KKK used prohibition to forward their movement. They got all the way up to 2 million members that were pushing for prohibition. And you have the Anti-Saloon League, you know, which is the biggest player in getting this movement passed. And man, I have it somewhere in my notes, but I'm just gonna kind of wing it. And if you guys want to correct me in the comments, go for it. But to change the Constitution is huge in this country. It's almost never been done except for prohibition. And I think probably a couple other things. I don't know. I didn't. But what I do know is that you got to get a 2/3 majority in the House, 2/3 majority in the in the Senate, and then you have to ratify it through the states.
We have 49 states right now, right?
Right. You have 48 states.
48 states.
And 2/3 of 48 states need to ratify it in order for it to become.
We don't have Alaska and Canada yet, huh?
No, we do not. And Hawaii.
And Hawaii.
So that's the thing, is that, you know, when we talk about like Constitution, man, you change a lot of rules to your state constitution, to your local cities' constitutions. Every form of government has a constitution. But our national constitution is fucking cemented for a good reason, because we need stability. One of the biggest reasons why America is so fucking great is because of our Constitution, and because it's unmovable. It's a list of laws and rules that our government has to follow to take care of us, and us as humans have to follow, because to take care of ourselves. So it's very hard to get this to happen. So that's the most amazing thing about this right now, is that, you know, at some point it gets pushed through because there's enough groups, there's enough people, you know. I'm breezing through a lot of this because we only have like so much time to, and this is like, bro, this is big. There's a lot of names in this group.
Yeah.
But there's men who are in government that are pushing things, like, you know, like Senator Wheeler. I think he's out of like Iowa or something, and he's like a big proponent of prohibition. And so they finally get it passed, man. They finally create all these movements, and before this happens,
People were getting drunk at work and dying too, huh?
people are getting drunk and dying. You have cars now being driven around.
People get run over.
People are getting run over, like fucking.
There's no age limit on drinking, huh?
And there's no age limit on drinking, and there's no age limit on working either.
And there's no oversight on checking how good the alcohol or proof or nothing.
Well, that's a big problem as well, is that especially for poor people,
And like American, they're not taxing it well either, alcohol, right?
there's no taxation yet on alcohol, really, because it's kind of being grown or made at home. You have
The Wild Wild West there, like
you have
marijuana.
You also have what's called N-word gin, and it's a type of gin that's made with chemicals to fuck you up more, but it's causing blindness, it's causing paralysis, it's causing bone degradation. And the other thing I got to note is that one of the big reasons for the push was for prohibition. It was anti-immigrant from the very beginning, because it wasn't white Americans, just the natives that are getting drunk. And when I say natives, I don't mean Native Americans like on a reservation. I'm talking like Butch, Bill the Butcher native, you know, born in America. I'm you know, of English descent, but my family's. So anyway, you have these people that are like, because Jewish people, Italians, Irish, they're all coming over here drinking. These fucking immigrants are getting drunk and fucking shit up. So we need to, and then worst of all, black people or the Negro is drinking way too much and he's raping white women. He's out there fucking shit up. And we got to get a handle on these guys. As soon as we freed them, they started drinking and fucking shit up. So like, this is the shit that's being pushed.
Damn.
To cause this movement, you know, and yeah, you got women's suffrage, which is pretty innocent. Women just want their rights.
Yeah.
You have, you know, the Anti-Saloon League, who just wants people to be healthy. Yeah. You know, and I will say, when I look,
that senator you named, just fun fact, he's the head of that league.
Yes, he's the head of the ASL. Right. What's his first name?
I'll tell you right here. I don't know.
William Wheeler. Wayne Wheeler. So yeah, so you have, and I'll be honest, bro, like the Anti-Saloon League seemed kind of innocent because their whole thing was like, we're not a political organization. We're just trying to get people to fucking stop drinking. You know, and you know, and it's kind of that spurs from a real early version of AA.
Yeah.
Where it's a bunch of guys that are like, man, I get too drunk every night and I'm fucked up and I can't get my shit together. And there's like these 3 or 4 guys in a saloon that are like, let's promise to, and actually it's called the Washingtonian Society first. And they're like, let's fucking stop drinking together. And then let's socialize this and, you know, make it social and stuff like that. So you have all that stuff, man. And you have states that are already going dry before Prohibition. You know, and this should have been the early sign for America, bro, because you think these dry states are having sober people walking around? Fuck no, dude. It's just making it more dangerous. But they make it Prohibition comes around, it gets passed. It's 1920. So all this is built up to Prohibition. Now it's like, now the 18th Amendment is ratified by the states, and so then they voted in, right? Now you have a whole year to fucking get ready for this. They give them 1 whole year. And you know what's crazy, man, is that this thing outlawed alcohol being made almost altogether. But it didn't outlaw being able to drink. You can't make it, but there's no law that says you can't drink it. So there's kind of a grandfather clause where if you have alcohol, you could keep it, but you can't make it anymore after this certain date. So you have places like the Yale Club in Manhattan that actually store alcohol. They stored enough alcohol for 16 years. They only, in the end, needed 13, but they stored enough alcohol, you know, so there was places where you could still drink, you know, and then there was certain exceptions like medication, which you could have a doctor prescribe you whiskey.
But most of the medication had a lot of alcohol too, right? Like
absolutely,
like tussin.
Everything had alcohol.
Cold medicine.
Yeah, cocaine and alcohol in it.
Nobody was safe. And so that was the thing, was that, and then especially prescriptions for whiskey went up. You know, ASL, Adolphus Busch. Yeah, we should talk about Anheuser-Busch. You know, that's the thing, is about German people coming in, you know, to this country before we even got to the point of Prohibition. That was the thing too, was that there was a lot of like Blatz, Pabst, Miller, Anheuser-Busch, you know, and you have Adolphus Busch, who married into the Anheuser family, which is why you have Anheuser-Busch. These are all huge beer makers that were like, and you know, when they first started making beer, they were doing about 20 million barrels throughout the entire nation, and which is a lot. But by the height, 23 barrels of alcohol,
22 million barrels of beer, kegs of beer. By the height and right before Prohibition, Adolphus Busch himself was selling 500,000 barrels of beer a year. And then and he was rich, bro. And that's the thing, is it made these guys rich. And that was the other problem, was that they were starting to have control over things because he became very rich. Like, when you talked about Philly back then, Philly was the place that was next to Adolphus Busch's distillery, because he had like a 40-acre distillery, and then he had like 5 mansions throughout the country, and then a couple more in Germany. His daughter had a 3-story playhouse that she played in, like a tree house. The person who designed the windows for his stables was Tiffany, and it was like stained glass. So like that's the thing, is that there was a lot of wealth distributed at the same time.
That's a big ass mansion.
George Remus. Look up George Remus out of Cincinnati, Ohio. So George Remus was a guy that, he's just a regular guy. I think he was printing money. He was he was working at a, where they make money. What do you call those? A mint. And he caught on right away.
Treasury Department.
Yeah, he was working in the Treasury Department, but he caught on right away that...
He also, later on, he became the model for the guy on Operation Man.
He totally looks like this guy. What did it say his early life was? I could be getting confused with someone else.
He kept saying, "Don't touch the side."
Anyway, so what this guy does is he catches on to the fact that, that's right, he was a pharmacist. And he catches on to the fact that alcohol can be prescribed. And so what he does is, because he's a pharmacist, he gets all the permits to distribute alcohol to pharmacies. And, when Prohibition happened, they locked a lot of like whiskey makers and distillers had to lock their shit up. The government would lock it up. And what he did was he was able to unlock those distilleries, buy that whiskey off of them, and distribute it medically. But his plan was different, was that every 1 or 2 trucks out of 10 would get jacked. And he would make sure that they were jacked by himself. And then those barrels, so as he's selling barrels to the pharmacies, he's also taking barrels back to his property in this like canyon, where he pays off the local authorities, he pays off the mayor, he pays off the fucking the judges in the area, and so you can go to this place and he's got about 30,000 barrels stored there. And this guy's fucking making money hand over fist. And what he's doing is he's also going to the White House and he's talking to the president's people, and he's paying them off. And he finds this guy who's like, "Hey man, if you give me $50,000, I'll make sure you never go to jail. I'll make sure you never get arrested and nothing ever happens to you." And so Remus ends up doing that.
Fucking Remus.
And he actually...
Who the president during Prohibition?
Well, we have a few different presidents.
Like when it started.
It's a 13-year period. Warren Harding.
Warren Harding.
Yeah, and Harding was a drinker, and that was the thing, man. So this guy Remus, I'll give you the quick on him. He builds this huge fucking empire, gets arrested, goes to jail, and while he's locked up, his wife fucking takes off with the investigator that arrested him. Like, he leaves. So in order for him to not have his estate and all his money taken away, he gives it to his wife. And at that time, the feds can't touch what his wife owns. So he gives everything to his wife, thinking that she's going to stay fucking true to him because he really is in love with her. He gives it to his wife. And within about 2 years of him being locked up, because he's doing 4, she takes off with the investigator that got him arrested. And then when he gets out, he goes and he fucking kills her. And this is how much people hated Prohibition, because he claims, this is one of the first claims of insanity that happens. He claims insanity, and he's like, "Dude, what would you do? She fucking, she's supposed to wait for me. She takes all my money, she has it, and then she takes off with this cop and starts a life with him, and now he has all my money." So he kills her, and the jury lets him go. Jury lets him off. So that's just one example of like the kind of people that are working in this, you know. And the other thing is like what happens to Adolphus Busch? What happens to Pabst? What happens to all these beer makers? Beer makers at first were selling like yeast and dry products. They learned really quickly that people were making their own alcohol. So they started selling malt.
Malt, legal.
Yeah, to make beer because malt was legal. And then grape growers like winemakers. This is one of my favorite things. There's this thing called wine glow, WINGLO. Wine glow is like this brick of dried grapes. And you soak it in water. And then the directions would say, do not soak this in water. Do not add sugar to it. And do not put it in a dark place and let it ferment because it will create alcohol and that's illegal. And it would say that on the box, basically telling you to go home and take it and turn it into wine. You know, and so that's kind of the ways around that companies like were able to get around prohibition.
I always wonder about that, man. Like the people that were actually grinding those grapes and all those wineries we have in Lower America, where did they go during Prohibition? And how many people were actually trying to drink rubbing alcohol?
That was the other thing too.
Is that moonshine?
Yeah. Well, you had moonshiners, and that's why whiskey. When we went to Louisville, you know, I noticed how much they love whiskey out there, and obviously Kentucky's bourbon country. But that's why bourbon is so important to those people because they were doing that shit before Prohibition. They were making their own alcohol, and whiskey's pretty much moonshine put in a barrel.
When they were making their own moonshine, it was legal, and then it became illegal during Prohibition, and then when Prohibition ended, moonshine was still remain illegal.
Right, and it's
still illegal.
Right,
it was never illegal before Prohibition, and after Prohibition, it became more illegal, huh?
Right, yeah. Well, that was
they wanted to wipe these people off from the competition, basically. Too, right?
Bro, Prohibition caused more problems than it cured. Because it was like
the black market opened up right away.
Yeah, the black market opened up, and who knows what fucking what people are giving you and what they're making, you know. And then also now there's no age restriction in illegality. You know, it's the one thing like weed. Now we know for sure if you smoke weed in California and you're under the age of 21, guess what? You could be arrested for that. You can get in trouble for that because it's a regulation. But when I was a kid, there was no like, they was just gonna take my weed away. So I was more in danger than my own son is in this state because of marijuana laws, because of prohibition of marijuana. So think about that. You know, back then, dude, was like, you made your own beer. You made your own. And libraries, you know, we didn't have Google or even TV or radio, but libraries had books on how to make your own alcohol. And then stores had still, you could get a still for $7. You could get a big... like Wine Glow, a box of Wine Glow cost $18, but it would make like almost a whole barrel of wine.
I heard that people were making when people started dying of alcohol poisoning like the first couple of days after Prohibition when they started making their own alcohol.
Yeah, blindness, like bone degradation. You know, like paralysis came from that, man. Like, I mean, even now, bro, you know, there's warnings. I don't know if you noticed, but I don't know if they're still there, but there used to be warnings along the border crossing, like small little like literature about drinking alcohol in Mexico because some of the tequila that they gave was like homemade or badly made, and it caused temporary blindness. Oh my God. Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen this stuff of this lady making wine?
Get your crusty ass.
That's how they make wine. Italian women would do that. And that's why alcohol was banned, bro. Women were falling off steps.
But that's how they made out. That's how they made.
Yeah, I saw a clip of Lucy when she went to Italy, and she was with an Italian woman, and they're both stepping on grapes.
Yeah, and that's nice, dude. There's nice dainty ladies.
But imagine, man, do they still make wine like that though? People stepping on it.
Yes.
But imagine, man, like they were out there to show Lucy.
Yeah, and that's how they would do it. A big, huge barrel like that with a little spigot at the bottom.
I could just imagine, bro, like that job, like that's the kind of job you have to probably wear a mask, like the executioner, because you can't be walking around looking at that lady walking down the streets, and you go, "Oh my God, that's the winemaker."
That's the lady.
She just stepped on shit right now.
Right. Yeah. Well, you could probably tell by the purple feet or her purple legs. That does look exhausting. Uh-oh.
It must be exhausting, man. Crushing grapes. Then that job later on was changed to crushing coca leaves.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, they're still using women for that.
So Prohibition lasted 13 years. I thought it was only 9 years.
No, it's 13 years.
But then Roaring.
Well, yeah,
the Roaring 20 was
we can
like
talk about
speakeasies, right?
You know, and that's the thing is that we started at this thing with the suffrage movement, you know, and can you throw up another picture of Susan B. Anthony for me real quick? You started out with the suffrage movement. Go to that one right there. You started out with women that look like this and dress like this. Okay.
Why should you dress like a rooster, bro?
Now throw up that's how they look. Now throw up a flapper, you know, and so that's like 1900, early 1900 to 1920. This is now we're getting into the mid 20s, and this is what women are starting to look like.
These are the speakeasies, right?
These are the speakeasies, and
but they're not dressed like that in public, right?
No, at home. A lot of these are younger women, but if they're working, they're secretaries, or you know, there's very few attorneys or aviators, but there are women that are in jobs at this point. Actually, there's one woman that becomes a prosecutor and goes after everybody. But yeah, mostly women were doing this. Women were partying, and this is kind of the first time that women are seen with men drinking, because before Prohibition, women didn't fucking come and hang out with you in the bar. Women weren't allowed in the bar. Maybe like in the saloons and stuff, and maybe it's just on TV. There was like prostitutes and stuff, but yeah,
They're not allowed. It's just funny because every time you see a woman in those times, she was just going up the stairs or hanging by the stairs,
right?
Not in the bar area.
No, yes, exactly. That's why when you see in the old westerns, you see the lady with the fan. She's at the top of the stairs. Because, bitch, don't come into my drinking area, dude. Like, this is for us. And that's how women...
Like, if you were not a woman performing on stage, you were never in a bar area.
Right. And that's exactly... You know,
that's why when I will see one of those movies with that comedian, what's her name? Then we talked about in the history, the comedian lady, come see me sometime, baby.
Oh, what was her name?
Mae West.
Mae West, yes.
I would notice now that when she was in the bar area, she was the only woman there.
Right. You know, and that was because she was an entertainer. There's good old Mae West right there. That lady loved fucking. But yeah, that's the thing. And so this brings about, you know, when you talk about Prohibition and how it shaped this country, man, like that's the thing is that this is a very good example. You know, this is, if you talk about women's independence, because women's suffrage wasn't about their independence. It wasn't about their voting rights. It did become something about their voting rights, but women's suffrage was mostly about stop drinking and stop fucking us up. Give us a quality of life that we deserve so we could raise our kids.
So during Prohibition, 1921, they were allowed to vote, huh?
Yes. I think at that point can you look up when women were allowed to vote?
1921.
1921. Okay, so yeah.
A year later. So it took sober men to let them vote.
It took sober men to let them vote. And
wow.
That's the other thing, bro.
They were drunken men would have never voted them yes, huh?
No, of course not. And how? And that's the other thing is like how frustrating.
Just to sober up. But so you're saying that the campaign to stop drinking was blaming it on natives and minorities, that they were getting fucked up.
Yeah,
we gotta stop them from drinking, not you,
bro.
So they were like, their drunkenness made them vote for that law.
We can't give these people any more power either, like Adolphus Bush and stuff like that.
Kind of like universal health care.
Yes.
These poor black people, Mexican, they're gonna abuse this health and care. So we just wipe it off from everybody.
You can't give these people fucking
healthcare,
bro. Like
they're already getting drunk and they're gonna get healthcare now. Come on.
Right.
Where do we draw the line?
Yeah, dude, now they're gonna survive and be strong. You know, they're probably gonna put some of their kids through college, and then they're gonna become people of power. Like that's the thing, man. Especially back then, and you know, I don't want to offend some of our Hispanic viewers who love white people so much that they became Republican, but white, you know, like white men, you know, and you can't, you know, it's convoluted now, but it's very obviously back then, white men didn't want to give up power to fucking nobody.
Nobody, bro.
And when I say white men, I'm not talking about Irish people. I'm not talking about Italians, because now that's a category of white men. But back then it was like, dude, you can't.
Protestant, man.
Exactly. Jewish people, Italians, Russians, Polish, Irish, all these Euro immigrants. You can't fucking you know, you can't give them, one, you can't get them drunk, and two, don't give them fucking power, because we can't lose that, you know, and so because and then now here we go, okay, we're in the Roaring 20s. Why do we have all these speakeasies? You know, we talked about women mingling with men, and that starts to happen. And, you know, when you go to a club now and you see women and men dancing, just remember that came from fucking Prohibition. Women's rights.
Diversity started during Prohibition, huh? Like blacks and
Yes.
Black people with means, not poor ones, with means.
Right.
With actually money, pimps.
Right.
And jazz musicians and well-to-do, actually, black people actually own legitimate businesses.
Yes.
They were actually drinking with people, with their peers, black
Right.
white people, for the first time.
But white people are also getting into jazz music.
Yeah.
Jazz music. Again, here's another advent.
And the band was diverse for almost for the first time.
Right. Well, yeah, and you had black music, musicians, like jazz musicians. And the only way you could go see a black musician is to go to a black speakeasy. And that's what white kids were doing back then. And so now you have an integration process. When you think about the 60s, dude, you think about when we started integrating as a society in the 50s and 60s, that again came from Prohibition, because fucking white people didn't know how cool black people were, you know, until they started, man, this fucking jazz music, baby. You have fucking, you know, you have like,
and the reason they
pushing
clap
that.
and jazz were doing this, because some of those speakeasies, you can't really scream. So they just clap like this.
Yeah, to be quiet.
To be quiet.
Yeah, and so that's the thing, man, is that
cocksuckers
you
at
have
that club.
all this stuff like exploding. But
And whorehouses.
But the big push, and let's talk about this, is the gangs. And we talked about not maybe bringing up Al Capone and stuff like that, but you cannot. This is an impossible part of this because one of the reasons why is like, okay, Al Capone's overdone, you know, Lucky Luciano, all these gangsters, like
you got the fucking Purple Gang out of Detroit
but
running
let's
alcohol.
talk about the Purple Gang, bro.
The Purple Gang out of Detroit. They were like a big time Jewish mafia that were huge during Prohibition.
Joe and Beanie Ramsey and Henry Louis Fleischer were the starters of the Purple Gang, and they were like one of the biggest hardcore mafias that first started. You know, when you think about the mafia and the mob, they weren't around before it was the Purple Gang, and the Purple Gang was like a fucking tough ass organization. But the Purple Gang set the standard for what Al Capone did, you know, and when you talk about Al Capone, you think Al Capone, right? He was the fucking head guy of the Chicago syndicate, and which is actually called the Chicago Outfit. It wasn't. It was a guy named
Bannon.
Close. That was Dion O'Banion. That was the that you're talking about the Irish.
Colosio.
Yeah, and he was responsible, but
Colosio?
no, John Torrio.
John Torrio.
Joe Torrio. Sorry, Joe Torrio.
Joe Torrio was the boss of Al Capone, but Colosio was the boss of Torrio.
Oh, really?
Look up Colosio.
Okay, please, because I was wondering.
Because Colosio was the guy that, like, he wanted everybody to be cool. Hey, don't fuck with the Irish.
Right.
You know, we got our own section.
Everybody be equal.
Yeah.
Everybody be cool. Nobody fight with each other. Nobody steals territory.
And then somebody put a hit on him. We don't know who. And then a whole war started between the Irish and the Italians.
Well, that's the beer wars. That's what they called the beer wars.
Colosio was a cop or a fucking gangster? Yeah,
I think he's a mob boss.
he's a big mob boss, man. When did he die? During Prohibition, right?
Yeah, 1920.
Yeah, bro.
So he died before. So he made Joe Torrio.
Yeah, he made Joe Torrio.
And then Joe Torrio is responsible for the Chicago outfit. And his whole thing is, he probably gets it from what, according to what Felipe's saying, is like no fighting amongst each other. You know, the Irish, and I'll give you the Al Capone was the enforcer of all the rules. And that's why he loved Al Capone, because Al Capone was like, he didn't give a fuck. He'll fucking kill you. And he'll do it. And nobody will know that he did it. Al Capone also had the backing of Republican Mayor Bill Thompson, who was like supporting all of this on the take, not giving a fuck who knew it. But
that the guy he's talking about, that's when the Windy City came up, because a lot of these guys were shady.
Right.
So that's the Windy City.
Yes.
It was never about the wind. It was never about the climate. It was about how shady these Chicago politicians
Which way was
were.
the wind blowing in the political winds blowing?
That's what they call it, the Windy City.
Right. That is so true. Okay, so you have Dion O'Banion of the North Side Gang, and he was Irish. You have the Jenna brothers, who was on the West Side. And those you have and then you have Joe Saltese, who's on the South Side. Okay. And no one's supposed to fight over territory. No one's supposed to, like, you know, but this is gangster shit, bro. Like, no one's respecting anybody's shit, you know? So, like, almost right away, you know, you had guys fighting over territory. 60% of the police were also on the take in Chicago.
Al Capone had a line when they were speaking to him, the reporters. He goes, you call it bootlegging. You know, in Chicago you call it bootlegging, but on the shores. But when it's served on a cold glass, and this, I don't know the name of the neighborhood was, the Chores.
Served on silver trays called hospitality.
It's called hospitality.
Yes, dude.
Yeah, that was the line. He goes, you call it bootlegging, huh? But when it's served on a silver plate, it's called hospitality.
Hospitality. Because, again, it wasn't illegal to drink
Yeah.
it. It wasn't illegal to party.
Then he goes, you have a lot of enemies? I have no enemies.
Right.
I'm providing a service. I'm providing a service for the working man.
Yes. Yeah. That's some of the quotes that I read.
Al Capone basically became what Pablo Escobar was with cocaine, like where you want to process it, you want to do this, you're gonna have to pay a service.
I believe that Pablo Escobar took a lot of his shit out of Al Capone's book.
Yeah.
Because Al Capone had his whole thing was drastic measures. There was 2 prosecutors that Al Capone wanted dead that were going to go after him. And so he sent his hitmen to go after them. And in the process, they ended up killing his buddy, Billy McSwiggan. And
no pun intended.
And Billy because he was a teetotaler. He didn't drink. Billy was his friend and was murdered. And Chicago loved this prosecutor for some reason. And when he was murdered, everybody got really mad at Al Capone, you know, and you could look at Al Capone as more of a Robin Hood in this story, because he's a lot like, you know, like Pablo Escobar, where he's doing a lot of damage, but he's also helping people. So there's a good contingent of people who love him. So Al Capone goes on the lam because he's wanted for killing this guy, but he didn't kill him. So he actually comes back into town and goes, look, you could question me, arrest me, do whatever you want. Billy was my fucking friend. There's no way I would have fucking hurt Billy, you know? And he's actually proven innocent over this and gets off. Like, the original Teflon Don is fucking Al Capone,
yes,
dude.
He had to go start. He moved all his enterprises when he was kicked out of Chicago for that. He moved all his enterprise to Cicero, Illinois, a suburb, and they bought out the whole town.
Right.
They bought out the mayor, the city councilman. They owned that town, and they were still doing businesses in Chicago, but he was not living out of the Biltmore Hotel anymore.
Right. And so after killing this guy,
before that, he was living at that hotel, bro. and walking around like he owned the world, huh?
Yeah, bro.
That's that famous scene when he was walking with his son, and that part where Elliot Ness in the movie confronts him never happened.
Right. No, it didn't happen. There was similar.
Elliot Ness was an alcoholic himself.
Right.
He died of alcohol. Imagine, bro, you put down the guy for alcohol, get him on tax evasion, and then you die of alcoholism.
And then you die of alcoholism. There's a lot of stories like this, like that, where people reverse themselves, or there's a lot of hypocrisy here. Dion O'Banion,
Frank Nitti,
thought that the Italians were scheming against him after this murder of the prosecutor. So he sets up Torrio and Al Capone. But Al Capone doesn't show up. Torrio gets arrested with his men. And so again, Al Capone didn't want to hit O'Banion, but O'Banion got hit by Al Capone's men. Even though Al Capone didn't order it. Al Capone vehemently denies wanting to go after O'Banion. Al Capone says that he wanted to unite these guys, but this starts the beer wars because now you have guys fighting over beer. You have people killing each other in the street. Let me give you some number. O'Banion ends up dying.
John Torrio retires.
Torrio retires, gets shot 5 fucking times, and retires, goes back to New York. But while he's working in New York, he's hanging out with all the mobsters there and creating kind of a union out there. In 1926, come on. Oh, also, dude, just to add this to like our compendium of crossovers. So Al Capone is not wanting to get shot up anymore. They kind of shoot up his car and he's not in it, but it gets him to go and order a 7-ton Cadillac that's completely armored glass, armored doors. And the crossover is when we talked about when we did the Secret Service, the first armored vehicle that was used in a parade was Al Capone's car that was confiscated. And I can't remember, I think it was Hoover or somebody used it. But yeah, you have the Valentine's Day massacre that happens, right? All that shit going on. 73 deaths in 1926. I'm sorry, in 1925 and 53 and 26. That's how many mobsters had died during that time.
Not to mention the Valentine's Day massacre.
Right, which was 7 guys. And you want to talk about this?
Also back then, man, you gotta remember that newspapers were hungry for press. And all they were putting up is murder, murder, murder.
Right.
And people were buying them. They were putting up a death of a mobster on the paper. It was like you going to go see whatever went viral on TikTok right
Salacious.
now that you gotta show everybody. So everybody would just rush to buy the newspaper, and there were no televisions.
That's the thing, man.
And there's radio.
Who do we talk? Patty Hearst. So okay,
William Randolph.
So William Randolph Hearst is the first guy to create, and we should do a history for fools on William Randolph Hearst because this guy is diabolical. Like, actually, fuck William Randolph Hearst because he creates what we have to deal with today, which is a lot of false media.
Yeah, man.
A lot of like salacious stuff.
A lot of putting Fatty Arbuckle like that, bro. All that stuff he wrote about him. And he was the first guy to get to put people guilty by the mass media.
Right, yeah.
And they were putting on an apology. We were wrong.
And so this is fueling the insanity that's happening.
So they're putting Al Capone out there on the news like they're putting John Gotti and Pablo Escobar on the news.
And it's crazy. It's making things worse.
But there's other gangsters doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
Like they make him out there to look like he's public enemy number 1, where there's at least public enemy number 5s out there.
There's larger outfits.
There's
way larger outfits.
There's fucking there's Meyer Lansky. There's
yes.
Lucky Luciano running alcohol.
Yes.
He's Schultz. The biggest pimp in America.
Right. Dutch Schultz.
Schultz.
Charles King Solomon.
And then there's that black lady out of the Bronx too, running numbers, running alcohol, running heroin.
Yes.
But that doesn't make the news because there's like this thing to push Italians.
But Capone is making a mockery out of the presidency, and the presidency wants to do anything to go after these guys. Before,
Also, they're making a lot of money, dude. So there's like when you mess with American money, it's over.
well, because money means power. You can't have power. You're a criminal.
We're
there's-
an hour and 10 now.
Okay,
Right?
We'll get to wrapping it up. There's the Mob March. I called it the Mob. I didn't know what else to call it, but I called it the Mob March of 1929. Where this starts. They start the Italians and Irish start to figure out that things are closing in on them because of the violence. So they sit down and have a summit, and that's why you have the families now. Is because
The 5 families.
Because
And then they had the 5 families there, and then in Chicago they had the syndicate.
so overall, this happens. After all the massacres, Valentine's Day,
The company, I think.
how
it's
many
called the
people are
company.
arrested? You want to know how many people were responsible for
What?
these deaths? How many of them were arrested?
0.
0 people were arrested.
You know that here in Los Angeles, there's a bar called the Dart Bar or the Black Pirate Bar in downtown LA. It's called the Black Pirate, the Black something. It's on Main Street. One of the hotel dining rooms, now part of the gallery bar, functioned as a speakeasy with a hidden door that led to an exit on Olive Street to help guests avoid the police. The exit has since been sealed with brick. The presidential suite also had a concealed spot for whatever. Yeah, brother, built more.
So this bar is inside this hotel.
Yeah, man. So those speakeasy opened up everywhere, huh?
Yeah, and that's the thing. And
They were getting shot up by a mobster when they went to war, huh?
though actually not as much. That was like more in the movies. The thing is that you got to remember during this time that illegal income is taxable. And so people are able to report their taxes. Like to this day, if you're a pimp, if you're a drug dealer, the government encourages you to report your taxes. And
Even now?
Yeah, they won't.
Even if you're a drug dealer?
You can put drug dealer on your taxes, bro, as long as you know, and they won't come after you.
But they have to. But you report it as income brought. But later on, the cops could just grab you, but they got to still investigate you, huh?
They can, but it's kind of, and I've known this for a while because I remember watching it on Phil Donahue back in the day when they had hookers, and hookers talked about how they would file their income as prostitution. And there's kind of a secret agreement between law enforcement and our tax collectors that they don't share really any information unless it's submitted, like subpoenaed. Like the only way that they can go after you is if they subpoena, and even then it's really hard to get it. It's so that the government could keep making money overall.
History here, fools, prohibition. Everybody be drinking, huh? Every writer back then was drinking.
Every
huh?
writer was
fucking
drinking
alcoholics.
back then. You know, and then we'll just wrap it up right now. The violence led to everybody kind of getting sick of it. There was a lady named man, now I'm gonna fuck up.
The lady from the Temple Bar on Sunset.
Pauline Sabin.
Yeah.
Pauline Sabin is this lady who helped champion Prohibition because she was afraid her 2 sons would become drunks when they got older. She realized through watching them behave and be good boys that it's more of a matter of self-control. And she starts to realize that Prohibition has more bad effects than it has good effects on our nation. And so she starts to champion in the same way that she championed Prohibition. You know, hey, your kids are growing up near fucking speakeasies and illegal activity. Aren't you sick of raids and spending police money and all this turbulence that's happening in our country? And at the same time, presidencies are leaving. You have Roosevelt coming in, who, you know, and Hoover leaving. Hoover was brought in by prohibitionists. Yeah. And Roosevelt was more championed by wet people. And so the wet people kind of, you know, gathered around him. You have the big Democratic win by a landslide. You have Roosevelt come in, and then they expected the vote actually happened before Roosevelt took office to change the amendment, the 18th Amendment. But so it was easily voted in, no problem. The problem that they thought they were going to have was having the states ratify, because so many states were against legalizing alcohol. But it happened within a day. They were expecting years. It happened within like a day that all of them were ratified. So almost overnight, alcohol becomes illegal again. The country celebrates. We're all a bunch of fucking drunks. Congratulations, go get a hooker. And
I
some
drink to
cocaine.
that, and I have this to say, man, that I used to think that prohibition was a waste of time. It didn't help, but it did help because a lot of laws came in after that, like 21 and over. More regulating on alcohol. We could trust people. We're not gonna drink. We're not gonna fucking be drinking no poison and shit.
Right. That's the other thing. There's regulation.
Yeah, I think without prohibition, we would have been. It would have been crazy right now.
Well,
bro.
think
People
about
drinking.
vape pens right now.
Vape
If you
pens.
buy a vape pen, underground vape pen, because I'll go to these fucking sessions to buy my weed, my flower. I learned to not, because I've got a bad,
Yeah.
like, you can get popcorn lung. And it's because those vape, and you'll see like 2 gram, 3 gram vape pen, 4 gram vape pen. And it's like, that shit is not good for you. Whoever made that did it cheaply. And you're just, and that's what happens with no regulation.
Gotta have some regulation, or else it's chaos. History for fools.